Joining us right now with more on the Eagles. They prepare for their rematch for the fifth straight year. The Eagles and the Chiefs will face off, and Cayden Steele is covering it all for NJ.com. He joins us right now on 97.3 ESPN. Cayden, welcome in. How you doing today?
Doing good. Just got in Kansas City about 3 hours ago off my flight, and I'm excited for this game. Like you said, it's a yearly tradition now. It feels like with the Eagles and Chiefs, so I'm excited to see what happens.
What's interesting is that it's a yearly tradition, but it feels like every time these teams play, it's a different set of guys on the field at certain positions. And I think let's start with probably the biggest question mark, right, when it comes for Eagle fans. No Dallas Goedert. He didn't practice all week. He is not playing. What do you think is going to be the biggest difference for Philadelphia in this game without Goedert? Because remember, he was a guy who had a huge role in the postseason run last year.
Yeah, the main difference is the run blocking, really. I mean, for all that Dallas Goedert does as a pass catcher, and he had a pretty good game last week against Dallas, and he is that safety blanket for Jalen Hurts, but he's also instrumental in the run game. He's an above average in that area. Whereas, Grant Calcaterra, the backup who's going to be replacing him, that's kind of his weakness. He is a glorified wide receiver to an extent, and he's not the best blocker in the world. So for a team that wants to run the ball heavy, losing a guy like Dallas Goedert affects potentially how you run the ball, or how you at least go about it. Maybe they use more extra offensive linemen, like the 6 offensive linemen. They could do that. But the run blocking will be missed. Calcaterra could probably make up for some of the pass catching. He has some ability there, but they won't be able to run block at the same potential if Dallas Goedert.
Is this where you have to get maybe Kevin Batulo's got to maybe dig deeper into the bag, right? Maybe get a little more creative because you don't want to abandon the run, right? One of the reasons why you had the game by Jalen Hurts was because Spagnuolo is so hyper focused on stopping Saquon. Well, now, is it something where you got to say, we got to maybe lean a little more into being balanced in a game like this?
Yeah. I do think there's a chance that they have to be a little more different than they were against Dallas. You look at Kansas City in the secondary, they really struggled against Justin Herbert and the Chargers last week. And if we want to look at the Chargers, similar identity to the Eagles in a way. I don't think they do it as effectively because they don't have Saquon Barkley at running back or the offensive line the Eagles have, but I mean they like to ground and pound, and they evolved a little bit in their playing against Kansas City, and they aired it out and they really attacked a Kansas City secondary other than Trent McDuffie that's relatively pretty weak, and I think the Eagles could take advantage of that and open it up. We saw last year in the Super Bowl the Chiefs were able to stop Saquon Barkley, and they had a good plan. I imagine they'll try to replicate that plan. But like the Eagles did in the Super Bowl last year, they responded pretty well to it. I think they could do it again because really Kansas City's personnel is not that much different in the secondary. They added Christian Fulton back there. He's played some snaps, but really it's the same secondary that was giving up deep balls last year to Jahan Dotson and Devontae Smith. That's where they can attack. Obviously, they're going to still try to, get their run established, but I do think this could be a more Jalen Hurts passing game, potentially.
Talking with Cayden Steele, NJ.com, Eagles writer live from Kansas City. Joining us here on Hanging with Hennig, Josh Hennig back in the 97.3 ESPN studios on 97.3 ESPN, streaming live on YouTube and X at Josh Hennig. Now, you just mentioned about the Kansas City secondary. I want to retract to that because I do think it's interesting that, obviously there is a bit of a downgrade there, right, from what the Eagles saw last week with Dallas. And we know there's been a lot of consternation this week, a lot of rumors and speculation about A.J. Brown. And even A.J. Brown came out and said, look, I was double teamed. I was bracketed a lot in the game last week. Do you expect him to get more openings against Kansas City's secondary?
Yeah, I do, because I don't expect Kansas City to run as much zone that Dallas did. I don't know if they had the personnel necessarily to do that. I think there will be more man coverage from them, and which A.J. Brown thrives on. So if it is more man like I expect, I mean, he's one of the best man beaters in the entire NFL. That's really where he thrives. So I don't think there's any reason to worry about A.J. Brown. I guess the only thing would be if you thought that he was still banged up. But, I mean, he hasn't been on the injury report, so I think he's fine with the hamstring. And if there's more man opportunities, I do think he can attack a lot of these corners. I mean, their corners are, Jalen Watson and, Christian Fulton. I mean, they have McDuffie, but there's, two potential weaknesses there, and they could move A.J. Brown around and get him some favorable matchups. I expect him to get open more. And I expect him to partly have to be more productive because I think they're going to try to be intentional about that. I don't think they're going to force feed him necessarily, but I mean, you can't go 2 weeks in a row where, A.J. Brown's not getting any targets. So I think they're going to try to get him the ball early and often. Same with Devontae Smith, and it kind of ties back into the fact I do think they're going to air it out a little bit, and A.J. Brown's going to be a benefactor of that.
Speaking of being a benefactor, obviously Jalen Hurts, two of the biggest games of his life have been against the Kansas City Chiefs defense. And Steve Spagnuolo is a guy who's a great defensive coordinator. What has it been in your mind about the Hurts versus Spagnuolo aspect of these matchups?
Yeah, part of it is, last year, and Steve Spagnuolo talked about it, it's the Hurts running factor. There's always so much that, as good as Steve Spagnuolo is, that he can prepare in that way. I mean, he could take off at any moment and really just make plays with his legs. You could do everything perfect. The coverage can be perfect. The rush can be decent. And Hurts can, scurry out for, 15, 20 yards. And there's not much you could do if you're Steve Spagnuolo in that situation. He's really good at setting blitzes. He has been throughout his entire coaching career, but and maybe there is some times where Jalen Hurts has struggled with the blitz, but you're also risking by setting a blitz that he could take off and pick up extra yards. So I think it's the Hurts factor of his legs. And then really, I don't know how much of it is, particularly last year, is Spagnuolo not game planning well. I really think when we look at this Chiefs defense, the personnel is not that good, to be frank. This is a Chiefs team that doesn't have much pass rush. They didn't have much pass rush in the Super Bowl last year. I think it's only really gotten worse. I mean, George Karlaftis is their best edge rusher. Then they're mixing in, rookies like Ashton Gillette. And other than Chris Jones on that defensive line, there's no one that you really fear. The linebackers are okay, but then the secondary is kind of average to below average. I really think that Steve Spagnuolo is just working with not a ton of talent. The Eagles have a huge talent advantage, and there's always so much he can do, and the Hurts' ability to run and take off. And even if Steve Spagnuolo has the best game plan in the world for tomorrow, and he probably will make some adjustments from the Super Bowl. I'm sure he's watched the tape and learned a little bit, but Kansas City probably doesn't have the personnel to match up with the Eagles. So, yeah, I mean, Steve Spagnuolo is going to have to pull some magic tricks tomorrow to stop the Eagles' offense.
Let's flip over to the other side of the ball with Cayden Steele from NG.com joining us on 97.3 ESPN. Cayden, I was very complimentary over the last several days of Vic Fangio because I thought the adjustments that he made after the team was down 14-7 to allow only 6 more points the rest of the first half and no points in the second half was a huge testament to him as a defensive coordinator. But now Jalen Carter is back. Now you're giving him Za'Darius Smith. Now you're giving him more information after week 1. We know Fangio likes to make adjustments, not just in-game, but from game to game. What is your expectation of the Eagles' defense heading into Kansas City tomorrow?
You just pointed out the biggest thing is that they get Jalen Carter back, and he's truly the engine that makes everything go. He draws double teams, which will free up Moro Ojomo more for one-on-ones as that pure pass rush specialist type of defensive tackle. It will help Jordan Davis as well. Jalen Carter also crashes down on things, which makes, frees up the edge rushers as well. He is everything to that defense. And you saw when he got ejected before the first drive, it really took the defense a couple quarters to get going. And part of it is that Vic Fangio was able to adjust. I agree with that. But it's also, this is a team that was probably expecting to have Jalen Carter. The Cowboys were certainly expecting to have Jalen Carter, so they based their whole game plan on it. And it took the Eagles a while to get their footing, but now you get him back. And you get him back next to Jordan Davis, who maybe played the best game of his entire career. He played the most amount of snaps he's ever had. And he was also just super disruptive against the run. You almost sacked Dak Prescott. I mean, he looks better as a pass rusher. So they have a chance to have the best interior defensive line in the NFL. And then you saw the linebackers, Jahad Campbell going downfield, making great plays in coverage. Zach Bond doing the same thing. So you have a great middle of your defense with the defensive tackles and the linebackers. And everything else you feel pretty good about, but there is, that worry with Dory Jackson at corner that he really got cooked by CeeDee Lamb. So there are some holes. But overall, as a defense, you get Jalen Carter back. You feel pretty good about things, especially, again, with Kansas City. I feel like I'm repeating myself, but, I mean, Kansas City, the offensive personnel without Xavier Worthy, no Rashee Rice because of the suspension. They're very limited as well. And, again, the Eagles are probably have a heavy favorite in terms of personnel. Like, they have so much better personnel than Kansas City's offense. It's another potential lopsided matchup.
When you think about, because you just mentioned about the pass rush, obviously Eagle fans were very frustrated about the pass rush last week, overlooking the fact that, well, we know Jalen Carter, who was double-teamed pretty much the entire year last year. But how about that we talk about the guy who did have a good game? I was watching Greg Cosell's breakdown of Jordan Davis, and he said Jordan Davis is the best game he's ever seen. And Jordan Davis, you and others have written about the NJ.com, where Cayden Steele covers the Eagles for, at Cayden_Steele 19 on the X platform. Jordan Davis lost basically 30 pounds between last year and this year. And the amount of pressure he was able to get playing without Jalen Carter last week, are we anticipating maybe Jordan Davis is going to finally have his breakout year in 2025?
Yeah, it's promising, right? I right now would lean that way. I don't think this is like fool's, gold. I don't think this is like an illusion that we're falling for. He's gotten a lot better, and a lot of that has to do with him losing the weight. He's just a lot more twitchy and a lot more elusive, and he can play a higher snap count. So just from that alone, the fact that he could be out there more, the production will probably go up. I think he's just going to be a lot more effective. I mean, this is a guy that had 6 sacks, 2 pressures, a batted pass. I feel like he was everywhere against the Cowboys. He's super strong. We already know that. Like, he already has the physical strength where he's already tough to block. He can stonewall double teams in the run game. But now the fact that he's more twitchy and he can get off blocks without, engaging as much because he's quick and he can kind of get around guys. This is going to be a potential career year. And I know Jordan Davis was criticized a long time for his weight and his conditioning, and all those things were fair. I mean, we go back and it's not like we can change that narrative, because he was a guy that was overweight and wasn't playing a ton of snaps and wasn't playing his best football. But I mean, now he is. And Jordan Mailata talked about it with me. It's a guy where, it's almost like a trial through fire. I mean, it took him a long time to get there. But I mean, he's only 25 years old. And most, I'm 24. I mean, like, I don't think I'm the most mature yet. I mean, it takes a while for maturity to develop. And I feel like everything's starting to click for Jordan Davis. I mean, that's scary for other teams. The fact that he could potentially play to that level consistently. I'm not sure who's going to be able, what interior offense line is going to be able to block, Jordan Davis and Jalen Carter and Mora Joma, especially when Jordan Davis is raising it to another level. And yeah, I do think we'll get a breakout year, and I'd be surprised if the play drops off.
He's Cayden Steele. Give him a follow on the X platform at Cayden_Steele 19, NJ.com for all of his Eagles coverage. He is in Kansas City for Chiefs, Eagles, kickoff 4:25 tomorrow. And, of course, we are your home for Eagles football in South Jersey on 97.3 ESPN. We can hear Mel Reese and Mike Quick calling the game tomorrow. Cayden, appreciate you calling in. Safe travels back to the Philly area.
Thank you.